He called her illiterate. 30 seconds later, the entire restaurant stood in stunned silence. Sophia stopped in her tracks and slowly turned around. Every conversation inside the luxury restaurant faded away. The billionaire leaned back confidently, expecting an embarrassed apology. Instead, she smiled politely and spoke flawless French. A few guests looked up in surprise. Then she continued in perfect Spanish. The billionaire's smile weakened. Before anyone recovered, she switched to German, Italian, and finally, Mandarin. When she finished, she looked at him calmly and said in English, "I speak 5 languages, sir. Respect should be the 6th. The restaurant remained silent for several seconds. Sophia had never imagined her evening would begin that way. She worked as a waitress after finishing classes at the university every afternoon. Most customers treated her kindly, but a few believed wearing an apron meant she wasn't educated. Instead of arguing, she usually smiled and continued working. She believed dignity was louder than anger. The billionaire, Richard Lawson, wasn't used to being challenged. Years of success had convinced him that expensive suits and powerful titles made people more valuable than everyone else. His business partners often laughed at his rude jokes, afraid to disagree with him. That night, he expected another easy target. A little girl sitting with her parents quietly whispered, "Mom, she's really smart." Her mother smiled proudly. "The smartest people never need to prove it." Several customers nodded after hearing those words. Richard looked around the room. Nobody was laughing anymore. His friends suddenly found their food more interesting than the conversation. For the first time in years, Richard felt embarrassed instead of admired. The restaurant manager approached carefully, worried the situation might become worse. Before he could speak, Sophia smiled and said, "Everything is fine. I'll bring their dinner now." She walked away as though nothing had happened. While preparing the meals, another waitress asked, "How did you stay so calm?" Sophia smiled. "Because if I lose my manners, I become exactly what he expected." Richard couldn't stop thinking about her answer. Every word echoed in his mind. He realized she had never insulted him back. She had simply shown him the truth. When Sophia returned with the food, Richard stood up from his chair. The entire restaurant looked toward him again. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. Nobody expected those words. "I judged you because of your job. I never stopped to ask who you really were." Sophia placed the plates on the table before replying. "We all make mistakes, sir. The important part is what we learn from them." Richard nodded. "I deserve that lesson." One of his business partners finally spoke. "Richard, I've worked with you for years and I've never seen you apologize." Richard gave a small smile. "Maybe I should have started much sooner." After dinner, curiosity got the better of him. "If you don't mind me asking," he said, "where did you learn all those languages?" Sophia explained that her late father had been a language teacher who believed every new language opened another window to the world. After he passed away, she promised herself she would continue learning in his memory. Waiting tables helped pay for her master's degree in international communication. Richard listened without interrupting. For the first time that evening, he wasn't looking at a waitress. He was looking at someone whose determination reminded him of his younger self before success had changed him. Before leaving, Richard quietly paid for every family's dinner in the restaurant. The manager thanked him, but Richard shook his head. "Don't thank me." He looked toward Sophia. "She reminded me that success without humility isn't success at all." The following week, Richard returned to the restaurant alone. This time, he greeted the hostess, thanked the chef, smiled at the dishwasher working through the kitchen window, and politely waited his turn without asking for special treatment. When Sophia came to his table, he handed her a small envelope. Inside was an invitation. Richard had started a scholarship program for students working part-time jobs while completing their education. He wanted Sophia to become the first member of the selection committee because he trusted her judgment more than his own. Sophia looked surprised. "You barely know me." Richard smiled. "I know enough. I know you didn't embarrass me when you easily could have. I know you answered arrogance with grace. And I know people like you deserve to help shape the future." Months later, dozens of hard-working students received scholarships through the new program. Many of them were waiters, cashiers, cleaners, and delivery drivers who dreamed of finishing college but couldn't afford tuition. At the opening ceremony, Richard stood before the audience and shared one lesson. "The most expensive mistake I ever made cost no money at all." He paused before continuing. "I underestimated someone because of a uniform." Sophia smiled from the front row. She had never wanted revenge. She had simply wanted respect. As the audience applauded, Richard realized wealth could build companies, but character built legacies. And sometimes, the most valuable lesson in a billionaire's life comes from the person serving his dinner instead of sitting beside him. If this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments. Have you ever been judged before someone knew your real story? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story because kindness is a language everyone can learn.